You know, if I have to do one thing, it's give her credit for doing what the other two simply have not done. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do mean to have it on and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, we're in an interesting situation. I don't even just mean for, the main point of this chapter, like, love. Square? Square? Is it technically a square? I guess it's not a triangle anymore. Love square? Was it ever even a triangle? I mean, like, I don't know. I've always never, even dreamed that Nasians had a chance. But then they literally became a woman. So, like their biology actually shifted. So, now I guess it was a love triangle, now turned into a love square, which I suppose it was a love square, previously. Because I guess Rosebank was definitely implied. Well, you read the chapter. But essentially, I don't know. Interesting scenario. I'm actually kind of shocked not went down this route in particular. But with that being the case, we are in a weird spot plot-wise. And not even weird in a bad way. We're in, funnily enough, despite us being 212 chapters in the manga, what this most reminds me of is that weird little period at the start of season 2 around, and I'm not sure what the chapter number is. I haven't checked that part of the manga in a little bit. But basically, we're in that weird little part of, post-Hendrickson and the return to Leonis for the Seven Deadly Sins, and the revival of the Ten Commandments. We're in that weird gap zone space, narratively. I would say Seven Deadly Sins itself had no other real era like this, except for maybe post-death of Meliodas, but the thing is, that immediately got time skipped anyway. Meliodas was dead, I think, for no more than 5-6 chapters, but at least for right now, ever since we've ended Anfuin and we've left there, we've kind of been in a cooldown period. And of course, we still have gotten plot, we've gotten lore, we've gotten history. Naturally, we've gotten Lance's backstory, at least what happened in the world beyond, aka the Lady of the Lakes realm, now that we know what that is. But at the same time, as juicy and as delicious as that upscale is, in terms of forward plot progression, we've kind of been on a little bit of a cooldown. And notably, this chapter, and presumably maybe, no, I just don't see anything happening for even the next chapter after this one, chapter 213 or 214, or possibly even 215, because we're in an interesting period where Arthur kind of doesn't have to do anything, and also probably can't. So, it really is our characters moving at their own pace. So we're in an interesting spot. But let's not waste more time. Let's hop right into chapter 212, Mismatched Lovers. Mismatched Lovers, indeed. I did not realize that Nasians was this tall. I thought, for some reason, I had it in my head that Anne was taller. They are literally the same height. Yeah, they're both standing pretty much straight up here. I did not realize that. And Rosebank is just noticeably shorter. Let's see. Chapter 212, Mismatched Lovers. We open up, and we are back in Leonis, naturally. We ended off last chapter with Lancelot deciding to return to Leonis. And, of course, we're back, and we see our main character. While Lance seems to have literally all the powers in the universe, and Emily has the main character energy to end all main character energy, he's still not the actual main character, and we have Percy. And Percy's waking up. Notably, he was out for 3 days. We're going to talk about this in a second. But I do wonder what this guy's deal is. Really, I do genuinely really wonder what his deal is. Notably, despite us having Percy back in the narrative for a majority of part 2 up to this point, right? Remember, the end of the first arc, the end of the second arc post-time skip, because the first arc was the little mini Pelgard arc where we were following Anne and Donnie. So we did actually have some time without Percy, and that's when we met Borse. We were in a weird-ish limbo spot there, but then Percy came back, and it's clear that he's been different, but he hasn't really talked about it. In fact, he only quote-unquote reverted back, aka got some of his old morals back, specifically because his grandfather Varghese came back and talked some sense into the boy. That's why he didn't absolutely pile drive Diodra through the dirt and was able to fight him without triggering his ability, because he didn't have any hatred towards him. So I do wonder what his dealio is. For example, why did he knock out for 3 days? What was he doing? This chapter gives us no context for that, and considering the end of this chapter, I don't think we're going to learn about it next chapter or the chapter after that either. Once again, I'm talking about, we got some backstory for Lance, but Percy's history and what he did in presumably the Life Spirit realm when he was gone for that 2-year time skip, we don't know. And we don't know why he knocked out for 3 days. Notably, maybe maybe Percy burned through a whole bunch of energy, he went through a lot. Not really. I want you to remember Percy's actual run in the tournament and then the damage he took by the end of it all. He didn't take any real damage in his first fight. He had his soul tether cut by Gareth, or no, I think it was Gareth who was wielding the soul blade, and they quickly reattached it. That didn't really do anything. His next match was up against who? Mystery Package, who he kind of is bullied and didn't take any damage from, because that was Dubs, who we still need to talk about, by the way. We kind of just skipped over. There's so many things that, I'll admit, we're in a really weird spot on that front too. We skipped a whole bunch of stuff. I don't think we've seen Gareth and Dareth, which is weird. We saw Ballin. We know he's here. I don't think we saw Gareth and Dareth, and we don't know what the status of Diodora and Izzy are. Like, we don't know where they are, which is also very weird. But for Percy in particular, because he's our main character, and he's the one we're opening up this chapter with, and obviously he's the focal point of this chapter. He is one of the 4, I suppose, mismatched lovers here. I do hope we get some sort of elaboration. Don't get me wrong. Do I want it all at once? Not really. I'm fine if we don't get like a little mini Benwick arc like we did with Percy where we cover that. I wouldn't mind if it's drip fed to us, but we've kind of just been dancing around it, right? Nakaba's clearly laid out this very noticeable fact that, hey, Percy's a little bit strange, a little bit different from his time reliving and relearning everything he was about being a life spirit. So, yeah. And we're not going to talk about it. I do hope we talk about it. I do hope it is explained because, like I said, Percy didn't do much in the tournament. He lost his arm to Beltreep, and that's it. Like, Awakened Beltreep took 1 arm off of damage. He put that back on. It was fine. He shouldn't have been knocked out for 3 days. So I wonder what he was doing, because I'm assuming that's it. I'm assuming he literally went somewhere. He does not address that this chapter either. But he blinks, he goes, "Hwah!" and he's back in action. But of course, he's not alone, as he's like, where am I? Because naturally, it seems like he did pass out back. And that's the thing. It's super duper weird, because if I don't talk about it now, I will not talk about it later. I think us not seeing what happens between Onflynn and chapter, I think, it would have been 3-4 chapters ago now, so like the end of Onflynn and the lead into Lance's backstory, right? That there being a massive gap there, it feels like a weird narrative choice, mainly because of how much was supposed to be set up at the end of Onflynn. Obviously the big thing was Dubs and Lance meeting at all. We don't know if that happened. We have no clue if that happened. And notably with Chaos retreating, and obviously the 4 evils being taken with it, like, was there not a reason to at least not just immediately leave Ionis and actually have Dubs make Lance a weapon? Because he is still weaponless. You could argue that maybe it's in production, but we probably should have seen that meeting, considering how Dubs was super excited to meet Lance, someone who had way too much magic power in the first place. And we also saw Lance break one of Dubs' weapons anyway, so feels like a weird thing that we didn't need to see that. Another thing we didn't get to see, Dareth's reaction, or Dareth and Gareth's reaction to leaving Onflynn. Remember, they were actually born in Onflynn, and then Dareth died, and then now Gareth's whole goal was to leave. We didn't even get to see that. It would have been nice to see Gareth's reaction to actually being in the real world for the first time. We didn't get to see the whole supposed introduction or truth being given to Gawain. Gawain is in fact seemingly still knocked out, mind you, by this chapter, I think. Let me see. Donnie's still not awake yet. The other 2, I don't know. Yeah, so see, that's the thing. We don't even know the status of Gawain. Last we saw her, she was asleep and being taken care of by Ballin. So, like, we don't know if she got to have a revelation or not. Like, what's the status of that? Like, there were so many different things that were meant to happen at the end of the Onflynn arc that Nakaba did set up, and then he just bowled over all of it. And I'm like, especially for a person who glazes Nakaba's writing, right? Like, notably, the one thing where whenever someone asks me, especially after they've read the series, like, Nakaba's a weirdo, dog. Why do you like this? I'm like, character writing, please, character writing, please. So, like, it is weird that we missed some pretty interesting character interactions and character revelations, and I'm not even sure if they happened, right? Like, we haven't even gotten a mention of Lance meeting Dubs and, like, Dubs working on a weapon that works for Lance. We didn't even get we don't even see Gareth or Dareth, I'm pretty sure. We just don't see them. We don't see Diodora or Izzy, who, once again, that's another open plot line. That's very, very important. What are their feelings about getting their parents taken away? We don't see that. And it's weird. It's weird. And we're acting like nothing happened. It'd be one thing if people were like a little bit uncomfortable about it, but like it's like nothing happened. And I swear, I'm tweaking right now. But would it be the case? We see Percy ask, "Where am I?" And a certain someone says, "Leonis." And obviously Percy goes, "Lancelot!" And Lance says, "You're out like a light for 3 days. I was bored, so I went back home to chill for a while." And I do like that Lance did actually manage to fit his entire trip back to Benwick and all the way back in the 3-day period when Percy was knocked out. And I do like that he's the one who stayed by Percy's side, right? Obviously, while Lance definitely does care for the rest of the Percival platoon, they were pretty much his platoon until, Percy actually took charge of it to some degree. And then, obviously, they went on their own. But these two have the bond, right? Ultimately, Lance is the first person Percy met coming off of God's finger. Obviously, it was Donnie who, actually interacted with him, but Lance, as Sin, did meet Percy first. And it's obvious that Percy is Lance's first real friend outside of either his family, because obviously he does have a dynamic with Tiore, and presumably the other siblings, but also who? Tristan? And even their dynamic is a little bit rough because Tristan feels guilt towards that dynamic. Though admittedly, the Tristan and Lance dynamic is something I hope we get more of. Because every time we see a little bit of an extras, I'm like, please feed me more. Even not in extra, sometimes in the main manga, I love that dynamic. But specifically, these two do feel like the best of homies. And I'm happy that Lance was actually here to be the best of homies for Percy, stay by his bedside, is reading a book, all that, just because he was worried for his boy. I love that. You know, I love Lance. I've seen a lot of people, especially with the confirmation that Lance literally just has infinite power as display, the confirmation that he was going to be infinitely powerful regardless, he was going to surpass the sevendeadlysins. I've seen a lot of like Lance hate. And it's because people don't like that he's so dumb, stupid, overpowered. And hey, narratively, I'm also still wishy-washy on it, mainly because now I feel like the only thing we can do with Lance is make him evil, and I kind of don't want that. I don't want the solution to every super strong, overpowered character being, okay, time to make them evil, or time to remove them from the plot. That's the thing. I don't like introducing super powerful characters to either A, remove them from the plot, B, nerf them, or C, make them evil. Those are like the three solutions to literally everything. And while some of them are spoilers, we literally had Meliodas in the first series just having to go evil, or like, it's just, I'm not the biggest fan of it. But ultimately, I do understand why we're so confident about Lance going evil, because we kind of have to. With that being the case, while we have Lance, he's here now, I like his character writing. He's still like a really cool character as long as you overlook, or even notably, I think even the power sells it, right? Because the power came with a cost. The cost of him losing his master and how he feels about that. And also, you know, the cost of him fighting in the way that he does. Originally, the complications that came with that. Were some of the complications completely erased with the fact that he now has zero sign? Absolutely. But still, I'm fine with that because it's development for Lance. I like the character work behind him. And I love his dynamics. So I am hoping that we do get more and more Lance dynamics. Please, Nakaba, don't lock this character away in a box. But with that being the case, we see that Percy is more than happy to see basically his big brother, which is even extra hilarious now that we have the context that Lance, at least mentally, is 15. I've seen hot debate on whether or not he's biologically 18, and ultimately, I think he is. I do think he is biologically 18. I think while 111 days passed for him chronologically, like biologically, the realm definitely accelerated his aging at least a bit. So I think he's biologically 18, but mentally, he's 15. Yet he is still clearly the most mature out of our current cast. Like, I do mean, like, current cast. I'm not just talking about the Four Knights, where he's obviously the most mature in comparison to Tristan, Percy, and Gawain, but, like, the only person who may be more mature, like, our current, like, core 12, which sounds crazy to say, but our current 12 is, like, Ballin. But Ballin's just so Chadley that I may be getting gaslit. But with that being the case, I do want to see those two interact. That's another dynamic I really want to see. I want to see Lance meet Ballin. I want to see Ballin face tank a Shining Road, and Lance be like, and then punch him in the mouth so fast that Ballin immediately knocks out because he didn't switch in time. But that being the case, Percy's cheesing, they're cheesing together, and Percy actually asks, hey, where's Donnie and Nasians? And Lance says, Donnie's still not awake yet. The other two, I don't know, want to go track him down? And Percy says, oh, for sure. And notably, when I first read this, you can check out the live reaction. It ended up being like 30 minutes. Again, you know, I'm happy that the live reactions are long because the pages of members do seem to enjoy them. But sometimes I'm like, darn. Like, I'm literally recording this on a completely separate day than I record the live reaction because I knew I needed time. And by the time I was done with the live reaction, I had recorded other videos that day. And I was like, it's too late. I've got to do something else. So that's the only thing. But 30-minute live reaction, you can check it over on Patreon for those $1 a month, or you could become a member for as $3 a month to get the live reactions. And of course, a whole bunch of other perks. You name it at the end of every single video, ad-free versions of all videos, early access to all videos. In fact, this is literally the first in a little recording session I'm doing right now. I'm hoping to get like 3 more reviews done. I think only 3 dropped because Kakarabashi's on break this week. So check it out, become a Patreon member. But with that being the case, I was going to get on their case a little bit for not being there by his side, but they were also there for 3 days. And Donnie being knocked out is hilarious because he's like the only character we actually get to see affected by power limit break. Every other time that spell was actually used on somebody, it like didn't really matter, either because we time skipped or they just seemingly it was just overwritten. I forget which one that is for the case of like power limit break against the Demon King. Did time pass before Cath? Or was that just like overwritten? I forget if they were fatigued or not when they went to go deal with the whole Cath and Cath situation. I generally don't remember, but with it being the case, Donnie being knocked out is hilarious. I hope he's staying with his grandparents. I hope, now that we do know that Donnie's mom is at least watching him, I definitely hope we get to meet his dad one day. Like it's not, unlike his mother, it's never implied that his father's dead. So like, I do want to know. I definitely do want to know. But obviously, Donnie is like a side character of side characters, though. Like, we're never gonna find him. But still, of course, Percy's down to hunt down his homies, and his homies are elsewhere. and two of them really, well, both of them aren't really homies, they're mismatched lovers. As we see in a tiny little clinic, there's a certain someone schmixing up a bowl, and they say, "So to make you help out the moment you come back." And Nasians happily declares, "Nothing to worry about. Working with medicines is the most relaxing thing for me." And honestly, after all that Nasians went through in Onflin, both like physically and spiritually and magically and like on every single level, I do completely understand why Nasians is like, I need something. I need something to clear the mind. Especially like I think it's implied that like they became a girl in Onflin. They like notably during the end of the Fairy King's Festival arc. Or not Fairy King's Festival. Well, wrong. Mixing two arcs together. At the end of the Fairy Realm arc, Nasians asked Percy, "Hey, what would you like me to turn into, boy or girl?" And Percy was like, "Well, you know what I like." And then I think the transition actually completed it in Camelot. So like they're dealing with a whole lot of stuff from choosing a gender or like being biologically, it's weird, magically biologically assigned a gender, and then obviously meeting their grandpa, which still has got to be weird. Like have they talked? Notably, this is obviously meant to be the little piece of Chastival, I'm pretty sure. So like meeting their grandpa in the sacred tree, getting their own sacred spear, getting their own version of Chastival, then on top of that, going through the brutalization that they did, and obviously, you know, fighting for their life while the other four knights were fighting the four evils. Like they went through a lot. So I do like that Nasians does have the opportunity to come, chill out, relax a little bit, and do what they want to do. Because remember, at the end of the day, Nasians still wants to become a great apothecary, right? That's the whole thing why they didn't just say, okay, yeah, I'm going to automatically become the next fairy queen, I suppose. No, they want to do their own thing, which I do think is nice. And we do get to see the little fella that has the multiple tails. One thing I do hope, though, now that we are seeing Nasians and we're talking about Nasians right now, I hope now that they do have Chastival, now that the cast is pretty fat with a bunch of heavy hitters, obviously from Lance to Percy to Gawain to Tristan to Isolde still, ironically enough, Ballin, Dareth. Yeah, I do hope Nasians is not just, you know, reduced to a spirit merchant. I do want to see them still use their abilities. I want to see them mixing more magics or mixing more medicines. I hope the three tails actually end up mattering, because despite this little guy obviously being a callback to like the different tails that they cut off, like he's a lizard from the demon realm, I do believe, like we don't see any of that used. Like I genuinely don't, outside of like the one gas that Nasians used to knock out somebody, and the poison that they use to try and completely instantly incapacitate Deodora. I forget what berry, it's some type of berry that they use that was reduced down to a poison. That's like all we got. I want to see them start fusing their poisons in Chastival. I want to see them use a Ceranos horn again. I want to see them be like a multifaceted character, not just an attacking style character, not just a defense style character, but like a support type. Because once again, we don't really have those. Like who else in the current crew? The one thing that Nasians has that stands out above everybody else, I don't think outside of Gawain with Power Limit Break, which obviously isn't perfect, I don't think anyone else can really do the whole buffing and debuffing thing. Nasian still has Wither, mind you. Like they still have that extremely broken magic all the way back from like the first third of the manga, and we just haven't touched it since. So I'm hoping Nakaba remembers and allows Nasian to cook a little bit more. But we see that Hendrickson says, "I know what you mean. And by the way, Nasians, has something, well, changed with you?" And I do. Now that we have context that Vivian actually cursed this man to be eternally oblivious, I feel so bad for Hendrickson. Like, he's cooked. He's cooked. We know that both Hendrickson's consistent obliviousness and inability to find anyone who loves him is able to, I forget what the specifics are, but it's confirmed in extra that's surrounding Kion that Vivian specifically cast Hendrickson to be completely oblivious at all times, which sucks for that man because clearly it's working. And also, Dreyfus's back pain wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for Vivian. She's the one who cursed him to have that. I feel so bad for both of those characters. One, because back pain sucks, and two, because man, as a person who's already pretty naturally oblivious despite being naturally observant, I tell you, it's a weird contrast. I know. I'm good at paying attention to a lot of stuff. Sometimes I miss really obvious stuff. I miss the forest for the trees a whole lot of the time. But with him being the case, I feel so bad for Hendrickson, because clearly they noticed something, but not of their own free will. As when they ask, "Has something, well, changed with you?" And Nasians goes, "Huh? You can tell?" And Hendrickson admits, "No, I haven't spotted anything. It's just the nurses said something like that, for some reason." And it's obviously because, once again, Nasians is now a woman, biologically. Which is still kind of crazy. I mean, like, that does make me really want to believe that, Nursival, or what would it be? Would it be, like, Possians or Nursival? I'm not sure what the ship name is. Because notably, I'm not sure if it's still a rule, but I remember looking for a while on the Reddit, the ship names and the ship discussion was straight banned. Apparently the Pan and Pausians wars were so intense that it just got flat out banned on the Reddit. And the funny thing is, despite them being so intense, I never saw them. I essentially, I'll admit, I use the Reddit as like a just genuine read of the community consensus. And while it's cool to see sometimes, I never saw any of those wars, but it literally got banned. So I don't actually know what the ship names would have been. But Nasians collapses and admits, wow, he is dense. But to be fair though, I don't blame him. Like, Nasians, while definitely looking a little bit different, isn't so overly different that it would immediately come to mind. Especially considering, like, 9 out of 10 times, unless someone's, like, consistently reminding you of it, gender kind of doesn't matter. Like, call me crazy. It's not the most important thing out there. So, or at least not on, like, a general interaction base. People are people. So I don't blame Hendrickson for not noticing it. And also, we know he's cursed for that. But we see that a certain someone yells, "Doctor! I'm here to pick up some of the cut and contusion ointment we asked for." And Nakaba, being Nakaba, gets extra free. I'm not going into it. It's not here. But if you ever do want to get... I don't know. This has happened for the last 2 streams. I'm not sure if it's going to happen on the next one. But that guy with the controller, I stream every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on Twitch. Currently playing Hollow Knight Silksong. Currently being buns at Hollow Knight Silksong. Not going to lie to you. But we're making progress. And very often over there, not only do we discuss all the chapters that drop that week, because hopefully I always get the reviews done by the time that's out. So I can talk about any chapter that drops that week. But also, we talk about literally anything, including what characters we like. For reasons. Show up to the streams. They're fun. They're fun. I promise. I would try to multi-stream. Like, notably, I do have, like, a widget installed that would allow me to multi-stream. Old man trying to do things. But I'm scared. Like, sometimes the net can barely handle just Silksong. I want to play Rivals really, really bad on stream. But, like, I can almost hear my internet trying to self-immolate if I dare to play something as complicated as Rivals in comparison to Silksong. But, with it being the case, come out to the streams. Come picture a member. Yes, I'm chilling. But we see that Nasians turns at the voice and it's like, huh? And Hendrickson admits, oh, right, this young lady escaped from Camelot 2 years ago, and now she's one of my nurses at this dispensary. And Nasians is actually like, no way, why are all these shots so gratuitous? And then they remember that they're in a story by Nakaba Suzuki. And they say, is that you, Rosebank? And, pull of doom, despair, and everything unfair. I'm not gonna lie to you, I kind of thought Rosebank would be forgotten about. And now this admittedly raises more questions than it gives answers, but we know where Rosebank is, as she says, yeah, I don't know what it is. And here's the thing. I don't know what it is. I am fighting so hard to not give her, like, a southern drawl. I don't know why. It's because I have, like, no female voices anyway, but something about her screaming, like, well, yeah, it's been a while, ain't it? But I'm not doing that, because that's not even, remote, like, it don't even sound right. But with that being the case, Rosebank is here. Naturally, this does raise the question, right? She managed to escape Camelot, and you know what? Before I get super deep into it, we'll go a little bit further, and then I'll talk about what Rosebank being here possibly has implications for other characters. No, we'll talk about it a little bit. But we see that they say, yeah, it's been a while, huh? But darn, you sure are a lot different from before, huh? And notably, Hendrickson's like, wait, you knew each other? These 2 text boxes are just switched. I know for a these 2 text boxes are backwards. I just can't prove it, because you can see this like text box is directed towards Nasians, and then this text box is directed toward Hendrickson, but their text does not make sense in this way. So this is Hendrickson asking, wait, you knew each other? And we see Nasians immediately comment, you're not exactly the same either, which is true. I guess they don't feed you in Camelot, or Rosebank just had, like, massive character development over 2 years, and massive backstory development, massive plot and backstory development. But with it being the case, it is true. Like, it is crazy, especially notably they were like 16 going into 18, I'm pretty sure. So a lot can happen over 2 years. I'm a weird case where, like, your boy stopped growing real young, just because all my genetics hit mad early, and that kind of just, like, capped out where I was. I was stuck at like 5'11" and 3/4 for a while, but then I randomly got that last, like, half an inch to hit 6 foot, and then go over 6 foot, and then I think I sit around 6'2" or 6'1". Like, I'm a bare minimum 6 foot. That's the lowest I go. I know I'm 6 foot flat at bare minimum, but sometimes I'm like 6'2", 6'1", 6'3". It all depends on who I'm standing next to, gosh darn it. I have cousins who claim they're 6'1". I believe them. Like, they've shown me doctor's records when I question them in the past. They're 6'1", but then, like, whenever I go to the doctor, sometimes I get a range of numbers anyway. But with it being the case, Rosebank, 2 years of character development, do go crazy. I guess they do not feed people over in Camelot, or she's just happier here. You know, once you get happy, you eat more. Trust me, I know. But we see that Nasian says, You're delivering that ointment to our knights in training? And Rosebank says, that, and backing up the Holy Knights fighting Camelot on the front. Which is very, very nice, right? Rosebank, while obviously working as a nurse, is still like Nasians, who, well, not like Nasians, because Nasians is not working as a nurse, but very specifically, she's still fighting the good fight, right? Presumably she still has at least a version of her old armor. I forget what her magical ability was, and I'm not going to Google it because it's not relevant for this chapter, but she does, obviously she was a holy knight for Camelot. She did have a magical ability. She was clearly capable in combat. So I do think it's a good thing that not only did she run away to Leonis, get to Leonis, and is now helping out in the medical sense, she's also made it to Leonis, is helping Leonis, and in the combat sense. And the reason I do want to mention this, actually no, not yet. As Nasian says, I never expected you to switch sides like this. And Rosebank says, yeah, well, after the fight, I'm sorry, these voices sound exactly the same. I don't have that wide of a female range. I don't even have that wide of a male range. But we see, yeah, well, after the fight in the Demon Realm 2 years ago, I just had it with Camelot. You see, there are 2 kinds of people in Camelot right now. See, this is too similar. Hold on. We're going to take a sip and we're going to reallocate. Bingle, bangle, boombo, bongle. Shabby-dabby-doo-ba. Beat-it-boo-bop-bow. Yeah, well, after the fight in the Demon Realm 2 years ago, I just had it with Camelot. You see, there are 2 kinds of people in Camelot right now. Those who think all the illusions are real and live with them, and those who know they're fake, but keep living on in their past, in their fantasies. And notably, Nasian says, I can't necessarily label that as a bad thing, but I do get it, you know? And we see Rosebank saying, well, ain't you a kind kid? And you may be noticing, pencil, there was actually much of a difference. One's in my lower register, one's in my higher register. Nasi goes in the lower, Rosebank goes in the higher. And yes, Anne's going to be introduced in this chapter. And yes, Isol's going to be later on in this chapter. And no, I will not have very distinct voices for them. I'm sorry. But with this being the case, I do find it interesting that she ended up denying Camelot, but did not get sent to Onfuit, which makes me believe that maybe they never actually went back to Camelot. Because if I remember correctly, speaking of a weird jump at the end of an arc, at the end of the Demon World arc, they were still in the Demon World. They had that portal to Camelot that Thetis got her hands on. So I'm guessing they were given the option on whether or not they wanted to return. So I wonder, where is Nanashi? I'm assuming the rest of the Knights of Mortlock Platoon, because, you know, Mortlock, but like the rest of the Knights of Mortlock Platoon were given maybe the choice, and maybe they went back to Camelot, because we don't see any of them, at least not in this chapter. But I do wonder what is up with Nanashi, because notably Lance was what gave Nanashi hope. Right? He was like, okay, there is someone who can beat some sense into Arthur, and it can't be me. So Nanashi may have actually joined the side of our heroes. Now, of course, the only question is, would Nanashi stay here? Would he stay in Leonis? Or would he return to the Celestial Realm? We know that Nanashi is a 4 Knights level, or not 4 Knights, 4 Archangels level character, and we just don't know what the status of the Celestial Realm is. We've seen the Demon World, we've seen the Fairy Realm, the Giants don't have their own realm. And the only other realm that is waiting to be explored outside of the rest of the mortal realm, obviously, is the Celestial Realm. So I think maybe the Rosebank escaping is meant to imply that Nanashi may have also just left Camelot, which would be really, really cool. It would fit into his whole idea of running away from his respective deity anyway. So I hope we get to see Nanashi again, because Rosebank being here implies that he could have had the opportunity to be free too. For any of the other knights that we saw, though, I don't think they'd pop up again. I think Rosebank is a special case because of her dynamic with Percy, and obviously how she fits into the whole mismatched lovers thing. And on top of that, I do think it's kind of cool, if a little bit maybe waste of a character interaction, that we don't get to see Rosebank address the idea that Nasians did actually want to leave her to die. And ultimately, if they had, who knows what would have happened there. Obviously, she wouldn't have given back Dragon Handle, but they probably would have gotten it back anyway. So I don't know. It is interesting. I do kind of wish the two talked about that at least a little bit. But it does get mentioned later on in a roundabout way, just not directly between these two as they are right now. But we see, as Rosebank praises Nasians for being kind, Rosebank says, but there's a real world, and they don't even try to reach an understanding with it. I just can't accept that, and I never will. If it weren't for them, Percival would. Now, this idea of Camelot and the moral connection around it is definitely an interesting one. Notably, I think I've gone over this before, but I'll go over it again. If I didn't know, if someone told me I was actually living in Camelot right now, right? Like everything I know and love is like fake in something, right? Or every single person I know and love is fake. Then I'd be like, huh? Because I don't even remember hypothetical real life. But say I go through tragedy Then I go into Camelot. I assume it's real, but then after a while I learn, like say, like what happened with Boris, right? Time passes, he ages, he grew up, but the illusion doesn't change. It doesn't progress. Nothing happens beyond what I know of them. Like there's like the big issues that existed with the illusion and the illusion system in Camelot. Then yeah, I'd probably be stuck in Onfwin, dog. Cause like I can't. I somewhat agree with Rosebank in the idea that well, at least with the people who know but choose to live on with the illusion. It is a matter of not processing your grief and not moving beyond it. I don't think that's healthy, like mentally. I also just don't think I'd be able to do it, right? Like I can't imagine knowing and loving and caring for somebody and then living like honestly, I feel like living with a fake version of someone and like I'm really trying to think hard about it. I would like it, but I don't know. I think I'd like it at first, like the way everyone would like it at first, like someone you've lost being there again. But I don't think I could do it. I just don't think I could. I think I wouldn't be able to take it. The cognitive dissonance would be too strong, and then I'd be banished to Onfwin. But we see that Rosebank obviously feels a certain type of way about Percival being gone, but of course we know Percival isn't gone, and she freezes and says, "Hey, I've been hearing some convincing rumors that Percy's still alive. Are they, I don't know why I keep going into this accent. I can't help it. I'm giving it to her. I need something different. But it's these things sour. Shit. I'm trying to give her Southern drawl so gosh darn badly, and it don't even make no sense. I'm gonna do it though. I'm gonna do it because we are literally about to get into Anne and Isolde, and I the vocal range is not that deep. But I do like that Nasians doesn't even like answer directly, at least not here. She just smogs for a second, and it's this very nice battle of Nasians. Though admittedly, Nasians, you gotta grow these bangs out, dog. I think it's the hair. The hair is the issue. I don't know what it is. The rest of the design, fine. The hair, we gotta fix this. But we see that a certain someone is body bagging random individuals. Next! And she immediately one-shots this poor fella. And she goes, next! And we see Alex Louis Armstrong, this technique, getting whooped by women, has been passed down in his family for generations. So many generations that he changed manga. And it's like, perfect! Wait till you see this, you smug little girl. And he immediately gets slammed on his cheeks too. Obviously, these regular mortal men simply cannot compare to Anne. It seems like she's been body bagging them for a while as she says, next! And Pelio's like, hey, Anne, why don't you take a break for a little bit? You've kind of been breaking all of these guys' spines. And she says, I couldn't do a thing to help the Knights of Prophecy over in Onfwin. In fact, I was nothing but a drag on them. How could I not be training myself right now? Which is very, very nice. But ultimately, I hate to say it, Nakaba is doing Anne dirtier than Nakaba did Elizabeth. And you may be like, huh? And what I mean by that is Elizabeth is disappointing because she is implied to have a really, really, really high power ceiling. Child of one of the gods, even if reincarnated into a human vessel, was supposedly an equal, the only equal, mind you, my elf fans, the only equal to Prime Meliodas with his commandment, all this, that, and the third. The whole reason Meliodas fell in love is because they were able to fight each other as equals, that equal dynamic, like that led all that. Elizabeth just never lived up to that potential, at least not offensively. She was always kind of buns, kind of fodder, kind of cheeks, but at least, she had the potential. She had that dog in her. She just always kept it caged. So like, fine. Anne doesn't even have the bag depth, dog. Unless her magic goes through another evolution or something. Like, I just don't think she's got the ball in her court, man. She's a regular person, and she's currently fighting another regular person who can be completely immune to magic or physical attack and just has really, really good base stats. Talking about balling, she has another person who has complete control or the ability to summon spirits. One of those spirits having the ability to immediately cut the soul ties between a person and their body, and notably they're literally uninteractable for most characters, with like rare exception, presumably demons could possibly interact with Garrett, but that's about it. We have another character who literally has a spirit spear. Yes, I'm talking Nasians, plus their own already base cracked abilities and their fairy giant hybrid biology, which means they got all the potential in the world, being the children of two of the seven deadly sins. Then of course we have Gawain, who has all the magic in the verse plus a version of Sunshine. Then we have Percy, the life spirit. We have Lance, the infinite magic hybrid. We have Tristan, the demon goddess hybrid. We have who else? Like notably even the Dawners, man. Like I know Dawners getting clowned on recently. He's literally still knocked out, but like even the Dawners got higher ceiling than Anne because of how high telekinesis could go. And all you got to do is be honest with her, or Blitzer. And honestly, her stats just aren't that good. So I'm very worried for Anne's longevity in the case of this combat manga. Even Isolde, once again, just better. Kion, better. Like Anne, she's kind of buns. Her magic is very, very good if you're stupid. if you don't know about it, and you engage in the conversation and decide to lie. But like, outside of that, I don't know, speed blitz her, or just fight her and be honest. If she asks anything freaky, be honest. That'd probably throw her off too. So like, it really is unfortunate. But if there is one thing, I'm glad that like Yakuba's acknowledging, at least having the character acknowledge that they're pretty fodder and trying to do something about it. But obviously training against random frauds, random Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood references, or just Full Metal Alchemist references, it's not going to do anything. But we see Napoleon says, I know, but none of these trainees can hold a candle to you in swordplay. We literally see all the numerous people she's beat up. And she says, then you take me on next, Pelio. And we see Pelio be like, oh, me? But, I mean, you know, and she says, looking down on me because I'm a girl. And obviously Pelio's like, no, it's not that at all. Like, I'm not saying this is out of character for Pelio, because Pelio doesn't have too much of a character, but I do really like Pelio. I'm kind of sad that, I know it's the time period, and like, unfortunately I can't say it's the time period, because a lot of people are still like this to this day, but like, Pelio, you know, Anta, why would you lie? Why would you lie? First, why would you look down on her? One of you is an assistant to the Knights of Prophecy, and it's not you, Pelio. And two, why would you lie to her knowing what that would get you? But we see that Pelio completely and slams straight into the ground as Isolde walks up in a dress and is like, Anne! And Anne actually goes, Isolde! And notably, one of the trainees is like, hey, Pelio, are you alright? And Pelio goes, and we see that Isolde says, oh, you're still training? And Anne says, actually, would you like to join me? Because obviously Anne does actually need some decent comp. But we see that there's a certain something sparkling. Wait, wrong ear? Wrong ear. There's a little something sparkling on Isolde's left earlobe. And she's smiling, she's cheesing, and she's got that thing sparkling. And Anne is actually like, now, wait a second. Wait a second. And immediately grabs Isolde's hands and runs off and says, here, come with me for 1 sec. And we see Isolde be dragged along. Pelio admits, okay, I did look down on you. Help! And presumably he doesn't get let up, because I'm assuming she heard that. So he told the truth and he's gonna get up. But still, Pelio, do better, dog. You're like, no feats. You got bullied by Armorless Pelguard, dog. Let's not do this. Armorless, magicless Pelguard. Please don't. But we see, and that was base Pelguard, no Chaos Anne. I'm not talking Super Anne Pelguard. But we see that Anne says, that earring you're wearing right now, was that a gift from Prince Tristan, maybe? And like, notably, I'm not sure what proposal would be, but like a very, very expensive piece of jewelry, very high quality, the exact same one that he wears. Like, I don't blame Anne for assuming, like, hey, y'all getting icky sticky, huh? And we see that Isolde says, oh, no, not him. It does match his, yes, but it was Queen Elizabeth who gave it to me, which is honestly even crazy. Like, if that's not approval, I don't know what it is. If that's not approval, I don't know what it is. But then again, why wouldn't Elizabeth approve? Like, who else? And we see that Anne says, oh, okay. So wasn't Tristan himself? Yeah, he really is still a kid. So, but then she's like, and like, notably, I do love this. Anne immediately like desyncs her for a second, but only realizes, wait a second, the queen, like his mother. So wait, his parents are okay with you and him? And naturally, I was like, oh, more than just his parents. As she reveals that Elizabeth says, gosh, sorry, I need to take another sip. I cannot do woman voices in my life. I'm sorry, I need to mute the mic whenever I drink. But we see, Elizabeth said, thank you, Isolde. Tristan told me he probably never would have come too without you being there. I hope you'll keep supporting him for me. And she takes off her own earring, which we know was gifted by the royal family, and she gives it to Isolde. I wonder if she got another one, or if now she's just earringless. If we do see Elizabeth again, which I presume we will before like they depart on their next mission, I do hope we get to see if she replaced the earring or not, because she always did only have the one. I don't think she ever wore both. But Isolde says, it's what she said. And Isolde's like, or no, Anna's like, oh, so the prince said he loves you? What did he tell you, huh? Because obviously, you know, this is the gossip time. And actually, you know, women, it's that time. Young people in general, you know. I will, to be fair, I can't even say, because I'm not young, but a good half the conversation I go on the phone with is like, hey, yo, homeboy, I got this bad. And so like it's men, it's women, it's whatever, youth, gosh darn it. And you know, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but sometimes it never even stops even from beyond that. But we see that naturally Isolde is thinking of what happened in an extra. And once again, I'm fine with Nakaba doing some stuff in extras, and like notably, I know he does it. Now that I'm thinking about it more, I thought about it more. I'm assuming Nakaba puts so much like very important information in extras to encourage people to buy the volumes, right? Because ultimately that's the goal of it all, right? As much as we love reviewing and just reading Four Knights in the way that we do, because this is just the volume that I personally scanned myself. I promise, I have it. But like the whole goal is to sell manga volumes. So putting very important like information and backstory stuff and like relationship progress in volume extras is fine because it does encourage the sale. But like the moment that Isolde is referencing here, she says, "Oh, well, I'm sorry. I prefer to keep that locked within my own memories." That is a moment that Nakaba did draw out. Like they were in Leonis and Tristan kissed her again, and they was like, "Please be with me forever." Like essentially, he practically proposed. But like that should have been in the real manga. Nasians being confirmed to be a woman should have been in the real manga. Like the appearance of Anne's mother and Donnie's mother, who didn't actually get a face reveal for some reason. I still don't know why we're not doing that. Nakaba, very weird. But like all this time, you still haven't decided on a face design for Donnie's mom. It's like gonna be important. But like that should happen in the main manga. Like there's a bunch of stuff that happens in extras. Where I'm like Nakaba, these are core pivotal points that we should definitely see, as they are massive defining points for the characters and their relationships. Why are you locking these volume extras? Why are they not in the main chapters? But I get it. But I don't think it's the smartest choice. Like if something like, and notably, once Four Knights is done, someone's gonna pick up all the volumes and they're gonna read it. And they're probably gonna read the extras anyway, so they're gonna get it. But at the same time, man, like from a week by week basis, I know there are people who haven't read those, and they're probably super confused on what this, or would want to have seen it. And it exists, you can find it, but still, it is kind of whack that he keeps locking these very important character beats and interactions and developments behind the volumes when they should be very important parts of the story, at least in my opinion. But we see that Anne is shocked, and it's like, "Oh, that sure is nice." And we see the two walking off. Now, I'm not sure if Anne is just unbelievably short, or this is just Nakaba once again drawing Isolde giga tall. Is she like 6'9"? She must be like 7 feet tall. Like, she is noticeably 2 heads taller than Anne. And in fact, I was gonna Google Rosebank's magic, but I am gonna Google this. Anne Four Knights. Why can I not spell knights to save my life? And Four Knights. Angle had 16. Okay, she's 5'2". Isolde has gotta be like a smooth 6, and that was pre-time skip. And did get taller, I'm pretty sure. So Isolde, let me take a look. And 6'4". Is that only 12? Is that only 14 inches? Is that really that? I think it's just Nakaba not being consistent with the character. Like Nakaba, you need to draw yourself a reference sheet, man. Cause like this makes Isolde look tight on it. And if you say, well, maybe Anne's being drawn too short, but yeah, but it will always go into Isolde. Like this, like know where the top of Anne's head is. Let's trace it over. It's not even like it's Isolde's waist, like the top of her waist. It's not even like the top of her rib cage. It is her waist that's the top of Anne's head. That is like straight 2 feet of distance. By this logic, assuming Anne was the same height she was pre-time skip, which she probably isn't, like Isolde's like 7'5" here. Okay, I'm lying, like 7'2". But we see that Anne admits, "I can't help but wonder what Percival thinks about me," which is like kind of crazy. I know like he hasn't been direct. Like, come on, Anne, let's not do these games. And we see the Isolde say, "Oh, I'm sure he's very fond of you, Anne," which is, I'll admit, gosh darn, why don't falling out? Well, to be fair, I leave you in my pockets for way too long. But I'll admit, as a person who's currently not in a relationship, but admittedly not as actively seeking one as I should, I need to hurry up real bad. It does always seem a little bit like it does grind a little bit of my gears when my friends who are in relationships are like, "Hey, don't worry, man, it'll come to you naturally and it's right." When I know for a fact none of the people, no, one, it did legit just happen by straight accident, and she asked him out, and they've been happy ever since. So like that, when I hear from him, I'm like, okay. But he's also like the most handsome man I've ever seen. So like, I'm like, I'm not sure if you count in the same way that I count with different people. But at least for everyone else, I know 3 of my homies who are in relationships will always say, don't even worry about being in a relationship, man. It'll come to you naturally. They were fiends. Fiends. They're in happy relationships right now. I'm happy for all 3 of them. But they were fiends. So I'm like, I'm sure he's very fond of you. And that gives me the same vibes of, don't worry, man. A girl will come your way when everything's ready. Potato chip, please don't make me reach across the table and smack you. But we see that even Anne is like, yeah, as friends, maybe. And Isol goes, Anne, you right, though. She says, but here, why don't you just go up and tell him how you feel? Which is very true. I feel like Percy definitely should be, at this point, more than capable of handling that. And we see that Anne admits, I mean, even if I did, he's basically just a little boy, which is kind of crazy. Like, I think she has a little bit too much of pre-time skip Percy in her head. Like, the Percy from post-time skip is a completely different man. Like, I don't know. He has his moments of shrinking back into his little boyness, but like the most recent interactions that Anne has had with Percy have all been like him as this super serious, like locked in, I will literally slaughter another man for the sake of my loved ones. Like, and he even notably, like, I'm thinking of the Varghese interaction where Varghese literally asks, hey, so which one you love more? And Percy says, oh, or no, like, do you love him? And Percy's like, yeah, I love them totally. As friends. Like that was so obviously Percy clearly knowing what that meant, which even makes the end of the chapter feel a little bit weird. But like Percy knows. Like he's not a baby. I don't know, man. I don't think he's a little boy anymore. So it's interesting that Anne is still seeing him that way. And then on top of that, still having feelings for him, right? I mean, like, wouldn't be the first time one in the series in the little boys. But still, we see that Anne admits that, and, you know, I have a pretty fearsome rival. Which is true. But at the same time, is it? I don't know. Like, in comparison to, like, Pan, man, the Nursival shippers out here, me as a Nursival shipper, we've been fed crumbs. And by crumbs, I'm talking about the crumbs of the crumbs. I'm talking like them crumbs after you eat the sandwich and the crumbs fall, and you pick up the crumbs and some more break off. We've been fed that, man. It's been a struggle. So, I don't know. I wouldn't say a fierce rival, but we see that speak of the fierce rival, and they shall appear with a brand new challenger. And they both go, oh! And it's interesting that the sound effect is kerbump, even though they clearly do not hit each other here. But we see that Anne says, Nasians, where are you going with Rosebank? Implying that they've already met, which is interesting. But again, I'm fine with not seeing that first interaction because it's minor, but there are a bunch of interactions that we should have seen. But we see that Nasian says, oh, we were delivering medicine to the trainees. I could just give it to you, though. And Anne naturally stares at Nasians, is like, why did you have to become a baddie? And then Nasian's like, is something on my face? And we see that Anne says, so yeah, Nasian is just taller. This is consistent. Yeah, it's barely. Like, I even see it here. Nasian is just taller. I don't know why I never noticed this. But we see that Anne says, no, never mind. And Nasian is actually confused as a certain someone, the object of affection, goes, whoa, there you guys are. Good morning! I just got up a second ago. Which, buddy, where were you for 3 days? I need to know. Percy, you're scaring me. And obviously Lance is walking behind his little baby brother. Which he is chronologically, I don't know, I can't get over the fact that he's chronologically younger. But then again, like, how much time passes in the Lightspeed realm? Does that realm run on the same time flow? Maybe that realm is also like a different time flow realm. Just like the Lady of the Lakes realm is different. But we see that as both Anne and Nasians both happily smile, literally hitting the exact same face. It's like, oh, Percy, certain someone, there's a little bit of tang in their voice. You know, the less sweet. I'm sorry. I don't know why. If Rosebank Southern Drawl is really that bad, at least it feels bad to me. I'll change it by next chapter, but I don't know. Something. It's like it's one of the rare times where a certain style of speaking just comes to me based on a character. Usually when that happens, it's already too late. Let's see, Percival, and we see Anne, Nasians, and Percy all go, huh? And she immediately tackles him. It's like, oh gosh darn it, I'm so glad you're safe. And Percy's like, oh, what? He's like, it's like they took both my original love interests, smacked them together, and then threw on 20 pounds. I didn't know I liked them this thick. And we see Anne immediately turns to stone as Nasians blushes, and Isolde is like, oh no. And Lance is like, I see you, Percy. Which is crazy, because Tristan is, yo, Gawain is literally watching everyone else drown as she dies of thirst. It is insane. Because think about it. Lance has 3. He has Guinevere, who he supposedly just does develop a genuine relationship with, eventually down the line. We don't know. I thought Lance had already visited Guinevere, and we just hadn't seen that yet, but we haven't gotten any context for that, despite obviously that color cover page of Guinevere being with Lance. So maybe they have met, maybe they haven't, who knows. But Guinevere is always meant to be Lance's like main one. Jericho is also in love with Lance, though I do think that is a manipulation of the lake, and like the lake trying to reconnect with itself, because we know Jericho did consume a piece of the lake, but actually lived, unlike the others. And then naturally we have the lake itself, like Lance's Bijou, essentially, that's currently chilling inside of Lance right now, that also loves Lance. So Lance has 3. One's already up in his guts. Do with that what you will. And we have Percy having now 3, which is obviously Nasians and Rosebank. And Tristan only has 1, at least the one that he's actually interested in Isolde. But Kion also apparently like is romantically interested in Tristan, according to another William Extra. Very, very strange. But I know they're not like actually. I know they're not actually blood cousins. It's still weird though. And then there's Gawain, who's got nothing. I know she blushed interacting with Ballin. Gawain likes what she could be bi. She could be. All right, I'll admit she could be bi. All right, that's fine. You know, Ballin's a real handsome man. I get it. But I think it'd be weird to be like, Gawain likes women, making that a core part of her character and why she finds herself strange, and then having her end up with a man, kind of weird. She's got nobody. Negative roster. 0. I'm hoping Gawain gets somebody, because man, it's looking tragic. She may get Rosebank, but that would also be weird. Just as Nasians like kind of wanted Rosebank to die, Gawain also put Rosebank in a position where she needed to be saved in the first place by teleporting her off the creature they were riding and sending her to her death. So like that would also be kind of weird. So there's no Gawain is just suffering. But we see that Percy's like, huh? Wait, are you Rosebank? And Rosebank says, I so wanted to see you, sugar. Ever since you helped me all that long ago, and knowing all the danger it put you in, I've been simply dying to bust out all of these feelings. And naturally, Isolde is like, no, wait. Very much akin to John Berthol's famous Punisher scene. Wait. And that can't be. And Rosebank says, listen, I think I've fallen in love with you. As a man, of course. I know it's not what you expected to hear after all this time, but I just never met a man like you before. So please, I need you to be my partner. Now, admittedly, the right looking type of woman walks down the street, looks at me and says, hey, you're mine. I think I'd fold pretty quickly. Like, I'm not, like, initially, I was gonna be like, Rosebank, it is actually kind of crazy that you're falling for a man you had maybe, like, what? One whole interaction with, and maybe one whole conversation with. Like, it is actually kind of crazy. But not only did Percy, like, actually save her life at the behest of them, their own will and their own morals, and against Nasians' own will, which did put them in danger for a little bit, but still, like, that was clearly, as they admit, something that put them in danger. Did save their life, did spare their life, all that. Like, clearly, that is wild enough. Especially, like, as a guy who readily admits, right on one, looks at, I'm folded. I'm dead. Y'all, if a 6'5" Amazonian goddess walks down the street well-built and points at me, and says, you pencil man, you're mine. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I'll go get the ring right now. So, like, I fold it real easy. Unfortunately, I like women. So, she could be 6'5". She could be 5. As long as she bad, though. As long as she bad. I fold it real quick. So, admittedly, I can't even not Rosebank hustle. She just like me for real. But we see that Percy, for some reason, doesn't know what she means by partner. Which I guess maybe makes sense. Because it's not, like, explicitly love and stuff like that. But, like, I don't know. I feel like Percy should know better. And it's clear that Lance doesn't know either. As Percy's like, what do you mean by partner? And obviously, since he's thinking this, Lance actually heard that. And at least lets out. We know Lance can also communicate seemingly through telepathy. So I'm assuming this is actually specifically telepathy where he says, she means your mate, dude. Which, legally speaking, I guess, yes. But Lance, is that what you think Guinevere is to you? I know he's, like, mentally 15, but, like, dude, really? And we see the Percy's like, my mate? Oh, I get it. And we see that Percy gently sits Rosebank down and is like, well, while you are literally thicker than both of my other love interests combined, I'm really glad to hear that, Rosebank. And both Anne and Nasians, who waited way too long, just close their eyes and are ready to hear it. Percy says, oh, but I'm sorry. I actually already have somebody I love. Or someone I love. and both Anne and Nasians look on in absolute shock. Now, admittedly, it is interesting that he says one singular. So, like, buddy, have you picked? And is it probably going to be Anne? I believe so. I do hope this does actually go somewhere, though. Like, notably, in fact, we're at the end of the chapter. W chapter. Once again, it is calmer, not too much plot progression, but hey, you know, at its core, both Seven Deadly Sins and Four Knights are romance stories still. So I'm glad we actually are getting some romantic development between the cast. But with that being the case, I hope this doesn't get like written off as a fake out. Like, I hope he doesn't say Varghese, because he says someone I already I love. I hope, and he should know like the romantic implications behind this. And like I said, Percy actually has matured over that 2-year time skip. So I hope we get some serious progression here. So don't fake us out, Nakaba. Don't fake us out. That's all I'm hoping for. But with that being the case, a W chapter. If you haven't already seen this video, please do me a favor and leave 2 + 5. I don't know why. I was trying to go for something more poetic, but no. Leave 2 + 5. You can literally just do the numbers 2 + 5, or you could do like the full phrase 2 + 5 right now. I don't know. Leave 2 + 5 in the comment section down below. I want to thank you for watching. Please leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the notifications will see you not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I have a Patreon below where you can support me for as well as $1 a month. The things like exclusive videos, or the content, and more. Also, then become a member of the channel for as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reactions, so the series I'm to review, audio variations of all my videos, and if you become a $12 Patreon or $12 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below. You can drop 5 views for a short video, 29 views on video, or any views at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a... Oh, wait. Some of those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter, 30 minutes long, and every other previous live reaction. But now, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is the Hack of the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Redwolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, Brandon Payne, J2MA, Guillaume, Bura Ura, Alex Kenny, Enzo, Swift Strike, Superflame Zero, Yuki Ally, Azo2404, Strikaman, Aso8, Grim, Straw, Twisted, Ollie, DeBoy, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Magic, CCC, Official Popeyes, Ramondo Furen, Cray Panem, Sarah Fiel, Dino, Axis XC, Plant Crone, Pickle, Heath Nelson, and Hector Gonzalez. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our line art tier patrons: A+A, Kevin Encarnacion, Dread Zoen, Sean, and Midnight Lord 21. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our Ink tier members: King RTX and Shrimpo the 4th Shrimp 06. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. I'd like to give a final thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Walkie Munoz and Walkie Munoz.